The Exile. The northern kingdom of Israel forsook the Lord. They rejected the law and the covenant which God had made with their ancestors. They worshipped the idol gods of the nations around them. They built altars to idols in all of their towns and on their high hills. They worshipped the idol Baal and sacrificed their own children in the fire. God sent his servants, the prophets, to preach to the people, telling them to turn from all the evil they had practiced. However, they would not listen to the prophets, and they aroused God's anger. The people of Israel were taken from their homeland into exile in Assyria in 722 BC, never to return to their home country as a people. About 136 years later, the southern kingdom, Judah, was taken into captivity in Babylon in 586 BC. Each of the kingdoms had been invaded 3 times. They were given opportunity to change their ways. For example, during the reign of King Jehoiakim, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon invaded, capturing all but the poorest of Judah and naming Zedekiah as king. A few years later, Zedekiah rebelled and Nebuchadnezzar returned to break down the walls of Jerusalem and set the fire to the temple. He took all the treasures of the temple back to Babylon. God was and is merciful to his people. However, he cannot tolerate disobedience. He knows what is best for mankind, and we must trust him and follow in his ways. The priest Ezekiel was among the people of Judah taken captive to the land of Babylonia by King Nebuchadnezzar. In the 5th year of his exile, Ezekiel was sitting by the river, and the hand of the Lord was upon him, we read in Ezekiel 1:3. Ezekiel saw his first vision as a prophet. It was of the sovereign God. The prophet was overwhelmed. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. He records in Ezekiel 1:28. God was with his people even in exile, far away from his temple in Jerusalem. God told Ezekiel to speak his words to his people, even if they did not listen. Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were among those taken to Babylon to be trained for service to King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel found favor with the king when he interpreted his dream. However, the young men refused to bow down to the king's golden image, and they were thrown into a fiery furnace from which God delivered them. When Nebuchadnezzar died, his son Belshazzar became king. At a great banquet there was writing on the wall, and Daniel was brought to interpret it. That very night Belshazzar was killed, and Darius, who had led the Medo-Persian army, became king. No one was allowed to pray to anyone except Darius. Daniel and his friends continued praying to God and were thrown into a den of lions, from which God delivered them. Near the end of the period of the captivity, Babylon was conquered by King Cyrus of Persia, and the next year a group of Jews returned to Jerusalem and rebuilt the temple. However, many were still in exile. The story of Esther was happening in Persia. Darius' son, Xerxes, had become the 4th king of the empire, and he searched for a new queen when his wife refused to obey his order to dance for his companions at a drunken party. Mordecai, a Jew, had thwarted an assassination and become a government official, which infuriated the jealous Haman. He was second in command to the king. Haman hated Mordecai and wanted to destroy all Jews in Persia. Mordecai's cousin Esther was chosen by Xerxes as his new queen. and he wanted to give her whatever she wanted. She explained that someone had plotted to destroy her and her people, and in a twisted turn of events, Haman was hung on the gallows that he had built for Mordecai. Because of Esther's courage, the Jews were given protection. The Jewish feast of Purim still celebrates this event.